Finally, a decision for Jordan Addison. He's going with USC, even though there was a little bidding war going on. Good for him. Should have the right to go to the NFL, but Andrew, why would you want to take a pay cut? Which leads us to the little feud you have now in the SEC between Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban. And I'm really glad someone has decided to take on Nick Saban because I think he's absolutely wrong here. And he comes out and goes after, Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M for signing guys. Well, guess what? It's now allowed. Guess what? Nick Saban ain't getting everybody who he wants now. And so now he seems to be whining a little bit. Your take on all of this?
Well, I'm going to say about Jordan Addison, if he bettered his financial situation by going to USC and he thinks it's not going to hurt his draft stock, well, good for him. I mean, he was an awesome player at Pitt. I think mostly it was due to Kenny Pickett as a great quarterback and more about the passer than it was about the wide receiver. But, hey, I mean, it's hard to look at millions of dollars from what we hear and turn those down. But I just have a huge problem with how USC went about things here. And the fact that they were recruiting the guy while he wasn't in the transfer portal and they were, trying to cajole him to do it that way. Hey, we've got a better situation for you, but you just got to pull the trigger and go in the transfer portal. No. My opinion, he should have to go into the portal and then talk to these teams. So they've got to enforce those rules. The NCAA, I don't expect them to ever really get anything right. And the fact that they dropped the ball on this with such a high-profile player is really an indictment on this whole system. It is the wild, wild west. It's now legal to pay players, and Pitt learned that the hard way. And I think this is a precedent-changing thing. I think from this point forward, unless the NCAA steps in, anytime a player starts to put up numbers at a non-blue blood school, that player is going to start to get recruited by those programs to transfer. And I think Jordan Addison is going to be a guy that the NCAA either changes its rules for, or maybe those big schools start to break away from the NCAA, Bob, and start their own league and do their own thing.
They might. I also think, though, that this is getting a lot of play because it's Jordan Addison. If it wasn't the Biletnikoff Award winner, I am not naive enough to think this isn't going on elsewhere, that people aren't going before you get to a transfer portal. It's getting a lot of attention because it's Jordan Addison, but it's absolutely going on elsewhere. And again, to your point, there are no guardrails. So people are doing whatever they have to do, and Nick Saban's not happy about it, and good for him. I hope he's getting miserable, and I hope Alabama never wins again. Let's go out to Jake in Carnegie. What's up, Jake? How are you?
Hi, Jake.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, just wanted to say, as a Pitt fan, it's a, terrible news to see Jordan transfer into USC. But, I think the real issue is really with the implementation of both the NIL and the transfer rule basically at the same time. If they went back to a rule where they had to sit out a year before they could, start playing again, I think it might, help them with that.
But that's not going to happen. It's out the door right now, and if anything, it's only going to get worse. And this is I do feel bad for a lot of coaches who do have to re-recruit their own players. And you're talking about blue bloods. Those blue bloods don't care about some of these other programs. They're going to come after them no matter what. Lincoln Riley, what he did too. He says one thing, goes out, takes all the money, brings his quarterback with him. He's been very aggressive in this, and I guess good for him. He's gotten what he wanted. But at the same time, if there are no restrictions in place, Andrew, I have no idea what it leads to next because it'll just be chaos.
Right. Well, I know a lot of Pitt fans that wonder why Pitt couldn't match the offer. This is a pro sports town. If we're going to start treating Pitt football like a pro team, then are there people that can step up to pay him to stay here? USC is a pro sports town. Los Angeles, Miami, another one of these schools, pro sports town. So it's really an issue. What it comes down to is Pitt feeling like they have to keep up with the Joneses. And do they have the alumni? Do they have the donors? Do they have the benefactors to keep up with this rat race? We'll find out. In this very high-profile case, they did not.
From the other side of it, though, if you're one of these companies giving money to some of these kids, for example, Jordan Addison is going to be there for 1 year, and that's it. He'll be gone, right? Does it help a company that much to put that much money into one kid, or is it just an extension of what we've seen before, which is, boosters coming up with money because they are crazy about their program and they'll do whatever it takes to help the program?
Yeah.
I don't know that
that's
it
what
helps
it is.
a company. You can sign guys to a lot of things, but if they're there, here and gone, I don't know that it means a lot for you as a business.
I agree. I think it depends on where you are. I'm sure if you're in one of these college sports towns where that team is king, if somebody is your spokesperson, it goes a long way. It doesn't as much here because you've got the Steelers and Penguins in place. But you might have people that are so passionate, so loyal to the team that they root for, that they do it because they want their team to win. I think that's really what it would come down to, Bob. Less about the business sense of this and more about, you want your team to win.
Brad joins us in Bethel Park. Hello, Brad. How are you?
Hi, Brad.
Hey, guys. First off, I'd like to say I'm not sure if I'd bring Hextall back. But with the 2 years he's been there, I think his hand's been tied, and I have no problem with the goalie situation with the Smith and Jari. But to say Raquel is unproductive in the playoffs, my God, he played a game and a half. The kid's a good player.
He is. He'll be the guy who's going to take over for Brian Rust when he leaves. And he had a good chemistry on that top line.
Well, all I'm saying is that none of his moves have worked so far. That's all. I mean, you can give me.
Well, again, I think Danton Heinen was a pretty good player for what he cost.
Well, you can give me reasons and some are reasons and some are excuses. Raquel wasn't productive because he took a dirty hit from Lindgren. That's right. But it still didn't work. It was a rental player for a second-round pick, and they didn't win a first-round series, Bob. By definition, that means the move did not work, right? I mean, just let's be honest. Phil Kessel is first year.
There are extenuating circumstances in his case.
That's what I mean, but I'm just saying, Phil Kessel scored 25 goals his first year, or 23 goals his first year here, but was great in the playoffs. Therefore, the move to trade for him worked because he carried you in the playoffs.
Right.
And
you can say the same for the Rangers. They had two big deals, and both of them, Andrew Kopp's been good, and so is Frank Bertrano. Both those guys helped them to get to where they are
And when
today.
the Penguins traded for Ron Hainsey, he was awesome in the playoffs in 2017. So, like I said, you can give me reasons and excuses. The bottom line is the Raquel trade did not help the Penguins win a playoff series. And that's what GMs and coaches, my opinion, are graded and evaluated on. I mean, Ron Hextall, let's be honest, as a GM, Bob, Ron Hextall hasn't accomplished anything.
No.
None of his teams have won anything,
Bob.
Bob.
None of them have, and that includes LA. He was out there a little, Philadelphia specifically, because at the time, Philadelphia was looked at, we're going over here, so I got to get to a break, but Philadelphia was looked at, they had a cupboard full of young talent. But in the end, it really didn't work out that way, and a lot of that talent they were counting on did not work out for him. And we got to take a break. We'll come back with more calls here. It's 412-575-2600 right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.